Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just get something right out of the way immediately. That's right, my head looks different. The hair is gone. You noticed it. I mentioned it. Let's move past it. We'll move on and talk about something a little more interesting here. The list that you see on screen is one submitted by one of my viewers, Mr. Luca Giannerini. I apologize if I am mispronouncing that. I can't say for certain whether I am saying that correctly or not, but regardless, that is the source for this list, and this is the list that we're going to be testing today. There are a few interesting things to note about it. First of all, this list is still on the Boros Garrison and Slayer's Stronghold haste plan here, rather than the just going with the Hanweir Battlements plan, for example. And that's very interesting to me, especially considering that this is a list that's splashing red for Fire Spout in the sideboard. We also have a copy of Ketria Triome here to help kind of accentuate the amount of red that is in our mana base and make it possible to cast this bad boy right here. And generally, in the lists that are playing red cards in the sideboard, I would expect to see a battlements list. That way, you have more freedom to play more red lands, like, for example, a second Valakut. But that is not excuse me. That is not what we're going with here. In fact, that is one of the things that the user said he was going to test is playing the version that played without Stronghold and played Hanweir Battlements instead. So I'm curious to hear back from him on how that goes. But yeah, some other interesting things to note about this list. We do see one copy of Fierce Empath coming in. It's sort of like, if you will, a third Tolaria West, where it gives you a 3-mana card that lets you search for a Primeval Titan. I have played this card in the past, although maybe not in the most honest way. I was playing 3 copies of Empath and so like an Elder Scale Worm and some other random stuff. It wasn't really random, but it didn't really pan out, and I wasn't super impressed by Empath in that list, even though most of the time it was searching for Primeval Titan anyways. But it definitely makes sense here as a one-of to kind of complement your Tolaria West. I have often felt like I would like to fit in a third Tolaria West, specifically for the purpose of having a more consistent Titan top deck, but the issue is that the land slots, even playing 31 lands here, there's not a single land here that I would want to cut. In fact, I kind of wish that I could add a 4th Castle Garenbrig, but that's just how Amulet is. Even though we're playing half or more than half of our deck as lands, we still can't fit all the lands that we need. So being able to include one copy of Fierce Empath in the main deck kind of helps solve that particular awkwardness. Fierce Empath not going to be particularly great against sideboard Ashioks and whatnot, so we'll see if in the future I end up citing this one out as a way to combat a potential Ashioks. I'm not sure. We'll see. There's some other interesting things going on with this list. We see a second copy of Cavern of Souls here in the main. This has been one that's very common online. To be frank, the only reason I haven't been playing a second Cavern of Souls in my own list is I did not have access to a second cavern, and in order to produce this video and make use of a second Cavern of Souls going on, I went ahead and made that investment in the second cavern. So we'll see how this performs, but I'm hoping this should help us be able to resolve an early Titan through some counter magic. Maybe let us force through a Dryad so we don't have to play around Mana Leak or Remand or something like that, even though we oftentimes just make them have it anyways. Cavern of Souls definitely helps with that. Lets us play out a Cavern and cast a Titan and get something other than a Bounce Land or Return Cavern of Souls, so that even if our Cavern gets fielded, we still have access to a second one that can do things later on down the line. I could see that being very impactful as well. And then there's some other interesting things here going on in the sideboard as well. You'll see that we've included a copy of Arasta. I say we, but mainly I mean Luca here. He mentioned that this is a card he's testing against mainly like the Prowess and Red decks, as whenever they cast a Lava Dart or Lava Spike or a one of those spectacle cards, like a Light Up the Stage or whatever, a Gut Shot. All these things will give us an additional blocker, so a Resolved Arasta is very problematic for them to beat. But also, Arasta is a card that can come in potentially against control decks, where you resolve this one on 4 mana. Oftentimes, your opponent will be tapping out for like a 3-mana Planeswalker or something, or just not holding up their best interaction because they don't expect you to cast a Titan, and boom, here's an Arasta, and now if they ever interact, you get a 1/2 green spider token. So, I could see that being useful as well. Worth noting, this card is like 10 cents on Magic Online, which I was surprised to see. I know that it's seen some play in various other like Titan Vial decks, for example. Um, if you want to pick this one up and test it for yourself, as of the recording of this video, it's very cheap. So I highly suggest you pick up a copy just because there's almost no cost to doing so. And so we do see one copy of Arasta coming in. And then we also have a second Field of the Dead in the sideboard. I've spoken somewhat at length about trying to combat these control decks. The Aether Gust problem, as much as I like to downplay it, is very problematic. It's difficult to beat decks with Aether Gust, and having a second Field of the Dead so that our first one doesn't get fielded away, since we're not playing anything like Ramnot Excavator or something like that to get it back. Having a second Field of the Dead makes for a very strong game. I have often found that even a single Field of the Dead can frequently be beaten by these opposing control decks because they can try to bide their time until they find a Field of Ruin, or perhaps they play a Field of Dead of their own, or even just making one zombie a turn or whatever with your field out may not be enough. But if a Titan trigger gets 2 Field of Deads, then your opponent's going to have a very hard time. And especially if those Field of Deads make 4 tokens on entering the battlefield, because you already had 6 names on the battlefield for your lands, I don't really see how an opponent could deal with that. But we'll see, we'll see. This is also going to help our matchup against Black Green X, where Field of the Dead is the card they just really don't want to see, and sometimes just playing a Titan, accepting that your Titan can die, and just getting 2 Field of Deads and saying, you can't beat me playing this Gruul Turf every turn, even if you kill my Titan. Like, sometimes that's the right line, and frequently Field of the Dead is lights out against them, so it also is a land that plays fairly well around Fulminator Mage. Obviously, other than the fact that they would be killing one of our Field of the Deads if they did target it, it is not as blowout potential as it is to hit a Gruul Turf or a Growth Chamber or something along those lines. So, anyways, we are playing the Stronghold, but no Sunhome, which is also something interesting to note. And yeah, Luca said that he was interested in making room for some additional counter magic in the sideboard, potentially some copies of Aether Gust or Negate or Mystical Dispute. There's also no copy of Pact or Negation in the main deck, and I could definitely understand including some additional counter magic. The reasoning for no Pact or Negation is that it very frequently, especially in game ones, is a poor top deck. Even in the times where I've played Pact or Negation in the past, I have either had to yellow it, hoping that a Titan would resolve and then getting blown out by like an Aether Gust or Counterspell or something. If they have a backup for whatever their interaction is, then not having the blue sources, you just die immediately to the pack trigger. And that comes up more often than you would think. Frequently, drawing a Pact Negation is like not drawing a card because your land setup just doesn't even allow you to cast it. Pact Negation is awful against most of the red aggro decks. It's awful against Jund, especially, since frequently you're not going to have long enough to build up a bunch of blue sources, and having a counterspell isn't particularly useful in those matchups. So we see the disinclusion of that, but hopefully it can be made up for by the second of Cavern of Souls, the second Cavern of Souls, and the Field of the Dead in the sideboard. So we'll see how that goes, and maybe I can suggest some cuts from some additional counter magic in the sideboard. We do play 2 copies of Veil of Summer as well, so I'm not super worried about those control matchups. And yeah, that's enough talking about the main deck. I'll see you guys for game 1. This is for you, Luca. I will also apologize in advance in case I happen to make any terrible misplays or fail to see the best possible line. I've been traveling for a while, and I just recently got back to some amount of normality, and yeah, to be honest, I'm a little tired, so we'll see. I'll try to play my best. Do the list justice for Luca here. Playing against Mogus 67. This is a hand that very sorely wants a Primeval Titan, but it has Explorer, one of my favorite cards in the deck. We got a Cycle with a Triumph if we need it, and we have a turn 1 Amulet or Grazer depending on what our opponent is playing, so I think this is a keep. We do see potentially a red deck here. Let's hope it's not Ponza. No way to know for certain. I think the line is going to be fetching for a basic forest to play around the idea that they might be on Ponza and putting an Amulet into play. That way we can play double Grazer this upcoming turn or explore into Grazer. I think that'll be fine, so. Just play around what we can while we can. Get a snow forest, because they're cool. We'll pass it back. Playing out this Amulet on 1 also means that if we top deck a bounce land, we can cycle explore into casting like a Dryad or a some sort of 3-drop. We shall see. Looks like we might, in fact, be playing in some sort of Scapeshift deck. There's a lot of blue sources for a Wooded Foothills deck, which is very interesting to me. Rendon 6, okay. Well, they have a way to continue making their land drops, which is not good news for us. Being that this is most likely some sort of control deck, I think it's going to be the right thing to do to prioritize getting this Explorer out around a potential Spell Snare. So we would definitely want a cantrip here as well. We have 2 Cavernous Holes that we can find to punch a Titan through counter magic, and we do in fact see one of those. So let's get a Grazer in play here just to get a little bit of ramp going. And I think we're going to hold on to this Triome and cycle it. The other option is we could use our breeding pool here to cast Grazer and put Triome into play, so that if we top deck a Titan, we can just slam it with Cavern. Considering our opponent won't be on Cryptic mana, that might not be bad, but if we don't top deck a Titan, then that leaves us in a really bad position. I don't know, though. I don't think we can rely on that. We're good at top decking Titan, but I don't think we're that good. We'll see, though. Plus, I can't really say there's a lot that would punish us for playing a Titan this upcoming turn had we gone for that line. Since the Cavernous Souls lets us play around Archmage's Charm, but we'll see. I think, especially in game 1 here, it's alright to play for a little bit of a longer, more protracted game, considering we don't potentially have to face down Aether Gust. They could be playing some Gust in the main, and definitely got punished here for not going for the Grazer line, but that is fine. Let's start by cycling this Triome. I mean, if we don't, then we can just slam Titan next turn. If we cycle Triome, it means that we're hoping to hit some kind of land in our top 2 cards, which, considering our hand is like considering our deck is like half lands, it's not a terrible thing to hope. But I suppose just playing it slow, playing out the Triome, and passing back is probably going to be the best, most conservative line. We can always get a bounce land sometime in the future here to pick up and cycle this Triome later. So now that we actually have a Titan, it means that I would prefer to play this Triome out. And the other thing that's great about this is a natural Primeval Titan, not a Summoner's Pact, which means that our Cavernous Souls can unexpectedly just put this guy into play. Unclear at this point whether going for the haste is going to be worth it or not. Wilderness Reclamation. The first one is not particularly great for us. If we go for the haste, then we're playing into a Cryptic Bounce draw, which is not something that I love. Well, we're most certainly putting Titan into play here, and we're doing so uncounterably, so there's no reason to sit and wait on that particular fact. I find it very likely they have a Cryptic command, so I think I'm inclined to play around it here. I guess the line is to get Feel the Dead and Tularia West, perhaps? Or even Feel the Dead plus a bounce land. If they had more of a graveyard, I would consider bogging them to cut them off of Uro, but that is not a consideration at the moment. Feel the Dead is an easy pickup. And we do need something differently named. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Yeah, I guess just Growth Chamber is fine here. Definitely stack the Growth Chamber first here, though. Of course. And yield to these. Probably could yield to the amulet triggers as well, but there's just 2 of them, so I'm not that worried about it. We can float the mana here and potentially do something else. I guess we can play a Grazer to get an additional zombie. Is that worth it? I guess so. It's still 1 point of damage short of a 2-turn clock, but we'll take what we have. If they want to remand this Arboreal Grazer, then they can be my guest. Alright. They took the bait. They wanted to cycle this remand. Indicates to me that they are looking for answers. Let's not send in the Grazer. I thought about doing it for the meme value, but I don't suppose it's worth it. They basically need to double bolt this Titan, and in doing so, they might be exposing themselves to Summoner's Pact, so we might be pretty well set up here. Alright, there's a bolt. If this is Snap Bolt, then that's going to be great for us. Actually, it's not going to be that great because they get to untap with their Wilderness Reclamation here. Ooh, if they have to Sanctuary the Bolt back, though, I feel pretty happy about that. Burrow. Okay. So we most certainly didn't have them on a 2-turn clock if this Grazer resolved anyways. But after all of this, our opponent gets an untap. I'm pretty tempted to Summoner's Pact in response to this Wilderness Wreck trigger. Would have to pay 4, and we'll have no chance of playing a Titan this upcoming turn. I guess we have a chance we could Grazer several times, maybe. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'd have 3, 4, 5, down to 4, 6, up to 6. So we could actually cast a Titan this upcoming turn if our Grazer resolves. And the Titan would still be able to be uncounterable with the Cavern. So I'm most certainly going to do that. This lets us play around a Force of Negation as well. Alright, here comes a Summoner's Pact. Primeval Titan. That is the one that we want. Now you may untap. Fact or fiction? Okay. I don't know if we care about the Field Rune at this point. Could split it like this, but this gives our opponent the chance to cast some end-of-turn growth spirals and go looking for things. Although, to be honest, we kind of want them to put this Uro in the graveyard so we can bog it away with our incoming Titan. If we split it like this, then this gives them 1 redraw with the growth spiral and a Field of Ruin to interact with our Field of the Dead, so that makes them enticed to take this pile, and then we can resolve our Primeval Titan. I suppose they could potentially counter this Arboreal Grazer, or remand it or something, and then we wouldn't be able to resolve Titan this upcoming turn, and we might be fueling their Uro pretty bad. Maybe doing lands versus spells makes sense, because they would need to be able to cast... No, I guess it doesn't make sense, because they can cast all these during our instep and their upkeep and potentially get an Uro back into play if we can't get a Bajuka Bog into play, and that seems pretty bad for us. We could also do Uro versus Growth Spirals. I think perhaps doing it this way makes sense. I don't know which pile they're likely to take, but... Actually, I want to split the Field of Ruin and the island separately, so that way they can't pick a pile that gets them much higher on lands to use with this Wilderness Reclamation. So I'm going to split it this way. This way, if they want to take the pile that has more cards, they have to put the field in their graveyard. And if they put this pile in the graveyard and we're able to bog, we can get rid of 2 Uros at once. So either way, they were getting a growth spiral. So let's pay for this pack trigger. Like so. Yes. And a Another bounce land is interesting. Let's play Grazer. Lead on this one. Okay, so we have Titan this turn. Our opponent has to have Double Bolt in hand in order to beat what we have access to here. So I'm going to go ahead and yield to these Amulet triggers. Let's pick up the Growth Chamber. Actually, nah. Yeah, let's pick up the Growth Chamber so that we have bounce land in hand. I led on the Grazer before playing out the Growth Chamber because it made them less likely to realize that we had Titan mana. If they weren't doing the math very carefully, then that may have been something that they could have misplayed on. Can't say whether they made a misplay or not. They either did or didn't have the interaction. If they didn't have it, then there's nothing they could have done about it in the first place. So, here's a Titan. This one I am more than willing to haste, I believe. Although, doing so and getting blown out by the double bolt means that we get Erode here. Considering we have field plus bounce lands, it probably makes sense to just go straight for the bog. I don't really want to lose to double bolt if I can avoid it, and there's really no reason for that to be a possibility. So let's go for a bog and Vesuva copying field. This way we can Growth Chamber to pick up a bog. We can't get our Field of Dead, Field of Ruined, and lose that way. Things are looking pretty good for us here, so. They're going to Ghost Trial in response to all these triggers. That means that it's going to get exiled to the bog as well, so. That's interesting. I guess they have a Mystic Sanctuary here, perhaps? I don't even know if they would want to get back here. I guess Factor Fiction? No. Wooded Foothills can't get a Sanctuary, so. I'm not really sure what their plan is here. They're just feeding a bunch of potential Uro fodder into the graveyard here to get eaten up by Bog, so. Now they have Mystic Sanctuary. I have to imagine this is going to get back Factor Fiction. Yep. That's fine. We are going to send at least one token at Ren. Since they don't have red up, we don't have to worry about one of our two zombies getting bolted. So one at Ren and one at them seems to make the most sense. Get these Uros out of here. Alright, yeah. So let's put them. Let's go ahead and swing one at them and one at Ren. I don't think there's anything that can punish us here. Getting the extra 2 damage through to their face just seems like a reasonable thing to do. Trying to keep Ren off of the ultimate here as well. Although they don't currently have a graveyard to abuse with the Ren ult, but that's fine. Well, that was pretty nice. I guess we can go ahead and yield here. They have a Field of Ruin, so we played around that expertly. Here's the Foff. Oh no, maybe not. Hydroid Crisis. Didn't expect that one. Did not expect that one. See, we have 14 and these zombies alone. I actually have more than 14 there. Split the Cryptic for sure. We don't really care about the second Wilderness Reclamation that much. I don't know if we can give them Snap and Cryptic together, though. Kind of unfortunate. Their Field of Dead doesn't really concern us since we have 2 fields out, although they do have a Field of Ruin to start matching our zombie production, but we're quite far ahead by this point. Don't care about the Force. If we give them this pile, though, they take everything and are able to just snap back Cryptic, which, I mean, at least it would exile the Cryptic command, so they can't get it back with a Sanctuary. Doesn't seem the worst. I suppose we could split it with a Field of Dead and the Cryptic pile. And then if they just take these two, we have to deal with a Cryptic command, although I think they're likely to take whatever pile the Cryptic command is in, to be honest, because it can bounce a Sanctuary and go to the graveyard, so I think it's actually correct to split it this way. A little unclear, though. Yeah, I think I think we can beat these 4 cards, in all honesty. I don't think we can beat a Cryptic Loop here. And they did take just the Cryptic Command, so I'm not terribly surprised about that, in all honesty. Play the field. Play the Growth Spiral. Okay. So, I mean, I guess first things first, go to combat, right? We have a Valakut here, so we can do some nasty things with a Tolari West if they let us attack. I don't think they can let us attack. They're just dead if they do, right? Actually, we can bog away their Cryptic Command this very turn by exploring and then playing Growth Chamber, pick up Bog, replay Bog, targeting them. That seems pretty good here. And they would have to have exactly Spell Snare. I guess they could use the Force of Negation to cut that off, but we'll see. Let's cast Explore first, so they don't recognize what our plan is here. They let it go. Okay, so here's Growth Chamber. Putting out the blue source, so we have ease of transmuting Tolari West, or even potentially multiple Tolari Wests in the upcoming future. Yeah, we'll float the black so we can cast a second Amulet here. I don't see a reason why not to. And here's Bajuka Bog, targeting a YOU. They did put the Force Negation in the graveyard, so that was something I was thinking about. I was like, oh, we could just get got by their Force Negation, but then I remember that we split 4 versus the 1 Cryptic, and that seems to have been the correct decision. So here's the Amulet, because why not? And we'll pass it back. Alright, opponent. What kind of miracle do you have? Cyclonic Rift. And we also got rid of their Feel the Dead permanently, which is quite interesting. Ren value. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I suppose with their Field of Ruin in play, we can't haste a Titan, which is mildly annoying. More Cryptic Commands. No, we don't like that. Well, this Mystery Rainforest represents another Mystic Sanctuary. We definitely can't give them double Cryptic. Man, this was a really unfortunate Fact or Fiction from us, or from them, for us. If we split it this way, they are most certainly going to take the Remand Cryptic pile, I think. Doing this means that they have an easier time getting another Uro together, which is a scary prospect. They're also about to ult Ren and have infinite Cryptic commands at their disposal, so we don't want to give them that many lands. I suppose if we did this and they took Remand Cryptic, then they would have access to fewer lands to discard with the Ren ultimate. But if we did this, then they'd be guaranteed to have 2 Cryptics on both sides, essentially, since they can retrace. So I'd rather have them have the choice of 1 Cryptic and lands versus the Remand and the Cryptic, as much as giving them access to 3 Cryptics sucks. Actually, I don't think I can afford to give them access to 3 Cryptics, so I guess we just split it like this. Yep. It's possible I should have split the Mystery Rainforest on the side with the 1 Cryptic so that they didn't have immediate, easy access to a... Can I not block this? Flying? I didn't know that thing had flying. Alright, well... We're in a lot of trouble here, actually. Field our Bajuka Bog. Rude. Rude. Get a regular forest, I suppose. Yeah, we may still lose this game. They discarded lands. Interesting. We drew the Ghost Quarter, which is actually fantastic news. I think we do have to show it to them. Let's go ahead and go to combat first, though, because they're going to have to cast Cryptic here. Actually, maybe we should have played the Ghost Quarter before going to combat, so that we could have... Yeah, they just tapped draw anyways. Yeah, the fetch land here. Giving them the fetch land. Actually, they didn't bounce Sanctuary, and they discarded the Misty Rainforest that we gave them, so... I don't know, some weird stuff going on here, but ultimately I don't think it's going to matter, so... We'll see what we can do here. We have fought our hardest. Bolt. Okay. And guess we're dead to another bolt. Sad that tapping our grazers means that we can't block the Hydroid Crisis here either. Annoyingly enough. Do we let this resolve or do we Ghost Quarter? I guess we can't Ghost Quarter now. They'll just bounce the other Sanctuary, so... And we can't use Ghost Quarter to force them to shuffle because they'll just elect not to search, so... Yeah, this game is looking pretty over. This Crisis, I think, really turned it around for them. Ren Ping, huh? Oh, okay, we're just dead. Yep. Alright. Well, let's see if we can do anything in game 2 here. And that felt like it was going so well. Okay, so we want another field and the Veils, for sure. Negate. Beast Within's possibly. I think so. They could have Ashiok, and this also hits Wilderness Reclamation. Arasta for sure. Reclamation Sage, perhaps. I don't see why not. Explosive seems bad. Despite that Grazer blocks Krasis, I don't like it in this matchup. Let's see, what else? Azusa dies to Bolt, but that doesn't necessarily make it bad. I like Summoner's Pact, I think. If we see an Ashiok, then we'll go ahead and trim, but I think up until that point, we need access to packs to make sure we have a Titan, if at all possible. Yeah, we can trim one Azusa, I suppose. Ancient Stirrings helps us find Cavernous Souls, which is quite relevant. Or even potentially a field, although I think trying to naturally play out a field is going to be a little difficult. We will see, though. Maybe the Rex Sage is not that particularly good. It also dies to a Ren Ping, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think... I think once they've got a Wilderness Reclamation in play, we'll have better things to do with our mana than try to cast a Rex Sage. We probably just need to resolve a Titan at that point. And as much as I hate to do it, I think we probably trim one Summoner's Pact. We could also just trim the Azusa here, but having a higher density of 3-drops that we can play seems relevant. So I guess we could trim a land since we sided in the field. We maybe don't need the Radiant Fountain, I suppose. Let's try that. Alright, we want to play first. Try to get underneath these Archmage's Charms and all that nonsense. We've got a Veil and a Negate. No way to cast a Negate yet, although I'm sure we can Vesuva Breeding Pool from their side, so... Or something along those lines. Garenbrig, go. This hand is settling in for an unfortunate long game. Although if they go for Wilderness Reclamation, we can just negate it, so... I'm more than happy to Vesuva a Ketria Triome here. That one fixes our mana pretty well. We can just slam Dryad next turn by playing out the Ghost Quarter. I don't know if that's going to be the move. We'd be playing into Remand, which I do not love. If we don't play into Remand, then they potentially get to Growth Spiral here, though. They could spiral into 4th land Slam Wilderness Reclamation, and we can negate it. It doesn't even sound that profitable of an exchange for us, though, to be honest. I'm just going to slam the Dryad. If we get Mana Leaked here, it's kind of sad, but I think they're far more likely to have Remand or Aether Gust, so... Aether Gust. Yeah, we'll put him on top. And we'll pass it back. This way they didn't get to ramp with Growth Spiral if they had it. Ashiok. That one's kind of a nasty one. They milled away our Dryad here, too. Kind of sad. Never mind. Always had the other backup Dryad. Don't worry about it at all. So I guess we're playing Dryad. We can Growth Chamber, pick up the Ghost Quarter, and replay Ghost Quarter, and have Veil of Summer up. I don't know if having Veil of Summer up during their turn does anything, though. I suppose if they went for Cryptic Bounce Draw Dryad or something, which I don't know if they would do. Even if they did that, we could just Slam Titan, but we could Veil of Summer that and then Slam Titan. That seems a little bit stronger. So instead of playing a land before I play the Dryad out, I'm just going to go ahead and slam the Dryad. Could be wrong, but I think that holding up Veil has some value here, so yeah, we'll do this. And we'll play the Ghost Quarter so that they may not realize that we can tap it for a green with our Dryad ability, so seems a little unlikely, but if they don't realize that, then they could play into it. Sanctuary back a Gust. That one's kind of gross. We'd like to draw a land here to go with this Valakut. No! We can't do anything about that one. I guess we don't necessarily want to do all of our yields here. Man. Negate. I mean, we still have a decent possibility here if we can top deck a land. Going Valakut into... we don't play a second Valakut, so we don't have that. We do have access to this Gruul Turf and stuff going on, though. So let's go ahead and play this out. Even pre-combat, so that they feel enticed to Cryptic Bounce our Dryad, potentially. And if they don't do anything about it, then I'm totally happy with that also. Growth Spiral. No, this is potentially a Field of Ruin. That doesn't stop the Valakut trigger, interestingly enough. And we can pick up the Vesuva, but we won't ever get a chance to copy the Valakut if they have a field here. I think a little hasty, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and negate here. Now there's a question of what do we pick up? We could pick up the Valakut to protect it. Doesn't seem awful. Could pick up the Vesuva to try to copy Valakut and go for that kind of line. I think we have to play conservatively here and pick up the Valakut. Looks like we're going to be able to get this Ashiok out of play, though, so that's nice. Okay. That was a pretty good turn from us. We did happen to top deck the land that we needed. I have a field, but not the one that I was talking about. Fact or fiction, huh? That's a lot of remands. That's kind of bad. Okay, let's split fact or fiction, remand versus land double remand, and that way if they want to get further into their deck, they have to take the fact or fiction pile and throw these cards away. We could even split FOF versus triple remand, and then if we draw Cavernous Souls, we just completely blow out their remand plan over there. And I'm going to split like this, because I think they'll take Fact and one remand, and then if we decide to, we can slam Titan with Veil Summer for the one remand, and play around, and decide not to play around them having a second counterspell. That is something that we could do. We're going to Gust now. Let's Veil, I guess. If they remand the Veil, then we can recast it. They could remand their Aether Gust, but then they can't recast their Aether Gust, so... What are they remanding here? They're remanding Aether Gust. Okay. They don't get an additional... they don't get an additional untap here, though. Oof. And we drew Amulet. Okay, well, opponent, sorry to say, but this is not going to work out very well for you. Amulet. Step 1. Okay. We need to play the garrison so we can haste here. Although, actually, we may not. Let's see, we have 6. We can play the Valakut here and get any untapped source and stronghold and untap them and still be able to haste our Titan here. So, sadly, we have the Vesuva already in play. Not much that we can do about it. Although I suppose on our Titan attack trigger, we could get a bounce land to pick up and replay the Vesuva that way. Always yes. And then still click yes because that's the way that this works, apparently. Alright, let's float some mana. I suppose we also can activate Garenbrig here and leave up our Ketria here. I don't see a reason why not. We'll yield here. We can get Bounce Land plus the Haste Land here and pick up the Vesuva. Yeah, that seems good. So let's go for a differently named... No, we have both Bounce Lands anyway. So let's go for Simic and Stronghold. Playing around absolutely nothing here. Alright, so this one will be the white, and this one will be the red. And we will go ahead and haste this wonderful 6/6 creature. And we'll pick up the Vesuva. And we'll get another Valakut. Boom. Boom. All at the face. We need to always zest this one also. I guess at this point they're just trying to run down our clock by making us do all the things. Attack with all creatures. Yes. Let us get Cavernous Souls and Bajukabog. Heck yeah. Giant. Up at you. Up at you. Everything targeting our opponent. Take it. This was our master plan. It's all coming together. Alright. So we managed to steal a game 2 here, which is fantastic. Vale doing some impressive work there. See, anything that we want to change? I still think that the Reclamation Sage and the Azusa could be of use. We know they have Ashiok, so it's a good thing we have access to these Beast Withins. I guess we can trim Fierce Empath and potentially a Summoner's Pact for these two so that we're a little less weak to Ashiok. I definitely don't like Fierce Empath against Ashiok. Summoner's Pact, I'm a little less hesitant about, but I think with 3 packs and 4 Titans and 2 Talario Wests will still be good, so let's try it this way. We can play a little bit of a slower game. Not too slow, because we do need to clock our opponent, but slowing down just a little bit doesn't seem like a terribly hurtful thing to do. Man, I would love to keep this hand. If any single one of these cards was an untapped source, it would be great. We could top deck untap land into turn 2 Dryad Cycle Explorer. That would be fantastic. But as it is, I don't know if I can keep this. I suppose even if we do keep, we're very reliant on resolving many spells all in one turn to cast a Titan in the first place. We'd have to top deck several lands, so let's mulligan. Maybe we can get this Veil of Summer to come back to us. Well, I mean, this hand has slow written all over it, but, I mean, I guess we keep. We can either bottom the Gruul Turf or a Simic here. Bottoming the Gruul Turf is worse for Field the Dead, but having access to a second Simic lets us transmute. I think that's going to be more relevant, so... Maybe we can spike a land off the top so we can cast Explore onto. Still holding out hope for that land. Now it needs to be an untapped land, though. We don't have very many of those. I would even be willing to put down a Cavernous Souls to cast this Explorer. Land. There we go. Never did not have it, guys. Had it the whole time. Whoa, we have 4 minutes left. 5 minutes left. How did that happen? Hyperspeed here. I only just noticed that. Alright, here's an amulet. We kind of want this to resolve, but I don't think it's the end of the world if it does not. Playing around a Spell Pierce here. Are they going to remand our amulet? I'm fine with that. Our only plan is to cast Ancient Stirrings here, so... no reason to put Rex Sage into play. Cavern. Find a cavern. There we go. Any order. Pass it back. We could cast Titan this upcoming turn. I think we will, because the worst they can do is remand it. Or Aether Gust it. If they Aether Gust it and tap out, then we might be fine. I suppose if we cast Titan, and then they just slam an Ashok. Ooh, Veil of Summer. Well, now we can play Cavern, and next turn play Titan with Veil of Summer up. There's no time like the present. Let's just play it. There's not much they could have here that really punches us. If they gust it, we might even just bottom the Titan. I don't know. We can always do this again next turn. Actually, next turn we can do it with Cavern of Souls available, because we can just pick up a non-bounce land here. Let's do that. Here's a Titan. Remand. You got it. Pass it back. No Ashiok, please. Okay, let's play the Do You Have Aether Gust game. Name Giante. Big man, coming in. Soaring through. They have the Gust. Okay. Let's top that one, because why not? Ashiok. It kind of sucks, but at least we forced a minus from them by putting the Titan on top. That is the reason that we did that. So we can Beast Within and play Azusa, potentially. We could also go ahead and play our Titan here. I think playing Titan is fine. That way we can Beast Within and then Veil Summer to back it up this upcoming turn to kill their Ashiok permanently. And if they want a Cryptic Bounce our Titan or something, then we can Veil during their turn to protect from that, so... no search. But that's alright. In fact, if they go for a Wilderness Reclamation here, then we can untap, play our Rex Sage, and then if they don't do anything about it, then we can kill a Wreck, and then play Beast Within with Veil up and still do everything, so... our opponent is tapping very low here, so... this indicates to me that they have a second Aether Gust, but that is not going to be good enough once this Titan is already in play. Can't get Stronghold, but luckily, this guy will not have Summoning Sickness, so that's good for us. Alright. Let's Beast Within Ashiok. I guess we could have responded to the Misty by casting Veil. Remand. We'd like that one to resolve, thanks. We get to search. Okay. There's no reason to play lands out here, so... let's send this at Rin, I suppose. We'll yield to this guy's triggers. Yes, we'd love to search. Let's get Bog and Feel the Dead. Do we want Feel the Dead? We could get Bog and Valakut so they can't just, like, mill it randomly off of an Ashiok trigger. That way we already have the Summoners Pack ready to go. Yeah, let's do this. And I think we're going to go ahead and play our Azusa post-combat here, because we might as well. Keep their Ren around for one more turn. Okay. Or don't. Also okay. Here is an Azusa. And we'll pass it back. They have one card in their graveyard. Can't yield to this turn because we may need the Summoner's Pact here if they play an Ashiok or something, so. This is kind of a stressful game, not gonna lie. Although now we're triggering field, so things are quickly spiraling out of control for our opponent. 2 minutes on the clock. Can we beat them with 2 minutes on the clock? I think we should be able to. Spiral is fine. Let's go to our turn. Fine with me. Ghost Quarter. Let's not play that yet. Looks like our opponent may have a Cryptic to tap draw here. I'm more than willing to pack and put another Titan into play after they tap out here. We can get Vesuva copying Bog to get rid of their graveyard and make this Cryptic loop thing go bye-bye. Difficult to beat a Cryptic loop, but not impossible. Play the Cryptic command, opponent. Alright, let's pack in response to this. So they are one less card available here for Force of Negation, for example. Alright, let's float some manas here. We'll cast the big guy. And we can make some land drops and make some tokens, and that'll be good. This is going to get Fielded Ed and Vesuva copying Bajuka Bog. Alright. Fielded Ed. Vesuva copy Bog. Bog. Amulet. Amulet. Auto stack fields. Growth Chamber. Float. Pick up the Vesuva. We'll play Vesuva copying field, I suppose. Ghost Quarter. I guess there's no reason to float the mana. Just trying to do this quickly. Okay, go. Shame that we can't just F6 here, because I might need to use this Ghost Quarter. Wilderness Reclamation. Okay. Fact or fiction? Okay. Uro we don't care about. We don't really care about Remand either. Let's split it like... We don't really care about Force either. I guess Remand lets them hit our Rex Sage, so we want that opposite of the Fact or Fiction. Flame Slash kills our dude, but that's okay. They probably need to take Fact or Fiction here, and we don't want them to put the Uro in the graveyard just yet. We need them to hard cast that one first before they can get it back, so... Well, they're gonna put the Uro in the yard, so... I stand corrected. Alright, let's not lose the game. Always a good prospect. Combat. Attack with all creatures. Let's just say no to these Titan triggers. Don't have the time. Don't need the lands. Come on, just die. I don't know if this is lethal or not. All right. Whew. That one was down to the wire, but we won the match against Temur Reclamation, a deck that I famously have struggled against. So that felt great. We definitely finally saw Vale doing some useful things. Maybe I've just been learning a little bit better how to play this matchup, but wow. Very strong showing for round 1 here. I apologize to our opponent for being so down on time compared to them. I don't know if I was just getting wrapped up in explaining and all that or whatnot. Maybe when I watch this back, I will be able to see it, but that was a fantastic match. And we automatically see the power of having a second cavern. It didn't feel that terribly different, but it just felt like we were seeing the cards that we needed to see more frequently, like the caverns, the Veil of Summers, whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. That was a sick match, and I look forward to the rest of them. I hope you guys do too. I will see you guys for the next match. This is Redface Menace signing off.